In a bustling city nestled at the crossroads of ancient trade routes, where the air was thick with the scents of saffron, sandalwood, and roasting nuts, there lived a man named Khalid. The city of Samarra was a vibrant tapestry of cultures, its markets alive with merchants from distant lands, their stalls overflowing with silks, spices, and glittering jewels. Towering minarets cast long shadows over cobbled streets, and the call to prayer mingled with the chatter of traders and the clink of coins. It was a place where wealth was both a dream and a reality, and Khalid was among its most prosperous citizens. Khalid was a merchant whose name was synonymous with opulence. His mansion, perched on a hill overlooking Samarra, was a marvel of architecture, its walls inlaid with mother-of-pearl, and its courtyards adorned with fountains that danced under the moonlight. His caravans stretched across the desert, carrying goods from the ports of the east to the bazaars of the west. Gold flowed into his coffers like a river, and his name was spoken with awe and envy. Yet, for all his wealth, Khalid was a man driven by an insatiable hunger for more. His heart was a ledger, always calculating, always seeking the next opportunity to add to his fortune. Khalid's obsession with wealth was not merely a desire for comfort, but a need to prove his superiority. He measured his worth in gold and gems, believing that possessions were the true mark of a man's greatness. His friends, if they could be called that, were men of similar ambition, and their gatherings were filled with boasts of acquisitions and conquests in the marketplace. Khalid reveled in these moments, his laughter loudest when he recounted outwitting a rival or securing a rare treasure. But beneath his swagger lay a restlessness, a fear that his wealth could never be enough. One sun-drenched afternoon, as Khalid strolled through Samarra's Grand Bazaar, his eyes scanning for some new prize, he came upon a sight that stopped him in his tracks. At the edge of the market, where the crowds thinned and the stalls grew humbler, sat an old man with a weathered face and a serene smile. Beside him, on a woven mat, was a small monkey, its fur a patchwork of brown and gold, its eyes bright with mischief. The monkey was no ordinary creature. It danced and tumbled with a grace that drew gasps from passers-by, its tiny paws juggling colored stones with uncanny skill. The old man, whose name was Farid, was a wanderer from the distant forests of the south. His clothes were simple, patched and faded, but his presence carried a quiet dignity. He played a soft tune on a reed flute, and the monkey moved in time to the music, its antics delighting the small crowd that had gathered. Children clapped, merchants paused, and even the sternest faces softened at the sight. Khalid, however, saw something else, an opportunity. He approached Farid, his silk robe sweeping the dust, and gestured toward the monkey. "Old man," he said, his voice smooth but commanding, "this creature of yours is remarkable. Name your price, and I will take it to my estate. It will entertain my guests and add to my collection of rarities." Farid lowered his flute and regarded Khalid with calm, unblinking eyes. "This monkey is not for sale," he said simply. "His name is Zafar, and he is my companion, not a trinket to be bartered." Khalid's smile tightened. He was unaccustomed to refusal. "Everything has a price," he insisted, reaching into his purse and producing a handful of gold coins that gleamed in the sunlight. "Name it, and I will pay." Farid shook his head, his expression unchanged. "Zafar is not a possession. He is a friend, a creature of spirit and joy. Gold cannot buy what he offers." The crowd murmured, some nodding at Farid's words, others whispering about Khalid's wealth. Khalid's face flushed, not with anger, but with determination. He saw the monkey not as a companion but as a prize, a living jewel to display at his banquets. "Very well," he said, his tone sharp. "I will return tomorrow with an offer you cannot refuse." That night, Khalid could not sleep. His mind churned with thoughts of the monkey, its nimble movements replaying in his memory. He imagined the envy of his peers, the gasps of his guests as Zafar performed in his opulent courtyard. By dawn, he had resolved to have the monkey, no matter the cost. He filled a velvet pouch with gold dinars, enough to buy a dozen camels, and returned to the market. Farid was there, as before, playing his flute while Zafar juggled stones. Khalid approached, his purse heavy in his hand. "Old man," he said, "I offer you this." He opened the pouch, revealing a fortune in gold. The crowd gasped, and even Farid's eyes widened slightly, though not with greed. "This is more than you will earn in a lifetime. Give me the monkey, and live as a king." Farid looked at the gold, then at Zafar, who had paused to nibble a date. "You offer wealth," he said, "but you do not understand what you seek. Zafar is not a thing to be owned. His value lies in his freedom, in the joy he brings freely. Take your gold, for it cannot buy what is not for sale." Khalid's patience snapped. "You mock me," he exclaimed. "Do you know who I am? I am Khalid, master of 1,000 caravans. I will have that monkey, old man, whether you agree or not." He turned to a group of his servants, who had followed him to the market. "Seize the creature," he ordered. The servants hesitated, for Farid's calm demeanor and the crowd's watchful eyes unnerved them. But Khalid's glare was fierce, and they moved forward. Farid did not resist. He simply whispered to Zafar, who scampered up his shoulder and clung there, chattering softly. The servants, wary of the monkey's sharp teeth, backed away. Khalid, furious, stormed off, vowing to return with greater force. Over the next days, he tried everything: bribes, threats, even appealing to the city's governor, who refused to intervene in what he called a fool's errand. Each refusal fueled Khalid's obsession. He began to see the monkey not just as a prize, but as a challenge to his power. If he could not have Zafar, what did that say about his wealth, his influence, his very identity? One evening, as Khalid sat in his mansion, brooding over his failure, a plan formed. He would not buy or steal the monkey. He would outwit the old man. He summoned his most trusted servant, a cunning man named Tariq, and gave him instructions. "Go to the market," Khalid said, "and find a way to lure the monkey to me. Use whatever means necessary, but do not harm the old man. I want the creature alive and unharmed." Tariq, skilled in deception, went to the market at dawn. He observed Farid and Zafar, noting the monkey's love for dates and shiny objects. That evening, when the market was quiet, Tariq approached Farid's stall with a basket of the ripest dates, each one glistening with honey. He placed the basket just out of reach, near an alley where Khalid's men waited in hiding. Zafar, curious and hungry, leaped from Farid's shoulder and scampered toward the basket. Farid called out, but Zafar was too quick. As the monkey reached the dates, Khalid's men sprang from the shadows, throwing a net over him. Zafar screeched, thrashing wildly, but the net held fast. Tariq and the men carried the struggling monkey to Khalid's mansion, where a gilded cage awaited. Farid, heartbroken, could only watch as his companion was taken, his flute silent for the first time in years. Khalid was triumphant. He placed Zafar's cage in the center of his grand courtyard, inviting his wealthiest friends to a lavish banquet to showcase his new acquisition. The guests arrived, their robes shimmering with jewels, their voices loud with anticipation. Khalid unveiled the cage, expecting gasps of admiration, but Zafar did not perform. The monkey sat huddled in a corner, his eyes dull, his once lively movements stilled. He refused to eat, ignored the colored stones Khalid offered, and turned his back on the crowd. The guests whispered, their disappointment palpable. "What a pitiful creature," one said. "A waste of gold," muttered another. Khalid's face burned with shame. He ordered his servants to prod Zafar, to make him dance, but the monkey only bared his teeth and hissed. The banquet ended in silence, the guests departing with polite smiles and hidden scorn. Khalid was left alone, staring at the cage, his victory hollow. Days turned to weeks, and Zafar grew weaker. His fur lost its sheen, and his chatter became a faint whimper. Khalid, desperate to salvage his prize, tried everything, offering exotic fruits, hiring musicians to play, even bringing in other monkeys to keep Zafar company, but nothing worked. The monkey's spirit was broken, not by the cage, but by the loss of his freedom, his bond with Farid, and the joy that had defined him. One night, as Khalid sat in his darkened courtyard, the weight of his failure pressed upon him. He realized that Zafar was not the prize he had imagined. The monkey's value was not in its tricks or its rarity, but in the life it had lived with Farida, a life of mutual respect and freedom. Khalid had seen only what he wanted to see, blinded by his greed to the truth that some things cannot be possessed. The next morning, Khalid made a decision that surprised even himself. He ordered his servants to open Zafar's cage and carry the monkey back to the market. There, they found Farid sitting quietly, his flute untouched. When Zafar saw him, a spark returned to his eyes. He leaped from the servant's arms and bounded to Farid, chattering with joy. Farid's face lit with a smile, and he lifted his flute, playing a tune that seemed to lift the very air. Khalid watched from a distance, his heart heavy yet strangely light. He approached Farid and bowed, a gesture he had never made to anyone. "I was wrong," he said. "I sought to own what cannot be owned. Forgive me, and take this." He offered the pouch of gold, not as a bribe, but as amends. Farid accepted the pouch, not for the gold, but for the sincerity in Khalid's eyes. "You have learned," he said. "That is worth more than any treasure." Zafar danced around them, juggling stones with renewed vigor, and the market came alive with laughter. Khalid returned to his mansion, his steps lighter than they had been in years. He began to see his wealth differently, not as a measure of his worth, but as a tool to bring joy to others. He opened his courtyards to the people of Samarra, hosting festivals where children laughed and musicians played. His heart, once a ledger, became a garden, growing with kindness and humility. The story of the rich man and the monkey spread through Samarra and beyond, carried by traders and storytellers. It became a tale not of wealth or conquest, but of learning to see beyond appearances, to value what truly matters, and to understand that some treasures are found only in letting go. The meaning of the tale, The Rich Man and the Monkey, is a timeless Sufi teaching story that speaks to the human condition, particularly the pitfalls of greed and the importance of understanding true value. Khalid, the rich man, represents the part of us that seeks to possess and control, believing that happiness lies in accumulating more, whether it be wealth, status, or objects. His obsession with Zafar the monkey reflects a common human tendency to see value only in terms of ownership and display, missing the deeper qualities that give life meaning. Zafar, with his joyful spirit and bond with Farid, embodies freedom, authenticity, and the beauty of living in harmony with others. His refusal to perform in captivity illustrates a profound truth. Some things, love, joy, trust, cannot be coerced or bought. They thrive only in an environment of mutual respect and freedom. Khalid's initial failure to recognize this reflects a blindness to the intangible, a focus on surface value that many fall prey to in a materialistic world. Farid, the old man, serves as a guide, a figure of wisdom who understands that true wealth lies not in possession but in connection and contentment. His refusal to sell Zafar is not stubbornness but a recognition of the monkey's intrinsic worth, which transcends gold. His calm demeanor and eventual forgiveness of Khalid highlight the power of patience and understanding, offering a path for others to learn and grow. The story's resolution, where Khalid returns Zafar and begins to change, underscores the possibility of redemption through self-awareness. It teaches that true transformation comes not from acquiring more but from letting go of false beliefs and opening one's heart to humility and generosity. Khalid's journey from greed to generosity mirrors the inner work we all must undertake to find fulfillment beyond material wealth. Ultimately, The Rich Man and the Monkey invites us to question our values and perceptions. It asks us to consider what we truly seek in life and whether our pursuits align with what brings lasting joy. It reminds us that the greatest treasures are often those that cannot be held: freedom, love, and the simple beauty of a monkey dancing in the market, not for gold, but for the joy of being alive.